Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive into animal deception.
Yeah, cheating.
Which is, I think, a topic that's like endlessly fascinating and a little disturbing.
It is.
Because it really gets at some fundamental things about animal behavior.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I thought we could start with just like a really basic example.
Okay.
To get us thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, imagine like a crow that's like super hungry.
Okay.
Right? And it's like, finally spot some food, maybe like the leftovers from a picnic or something.
Yeah.
And it flies over there all excited to eat.
Right.
But when it gets there, it's like a total free-for-all, right? There's like a bunch of other birds already there tucking in.
Yeah.
And there's like one really dominant bird that's like trying to hog it all.
Of course, the bully.
Yeah, exactly. So how does our crow or latecomer, how does it manage to snag a bite?
Well, I mean, one thing it could do
Yeah.
is give a false alarm call.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like suddenly, act like there's a predator around.
Yeah.
And everyone else scatters, thinking there's danger.
Right, they just take off.
Yeah, and then our clever crow gets, a little bit of peace and quiet to actually enjoy the food.
Wow. So it's like manipulating the whole situation to its advantage.
Absolutely.
And that kind of behavior really gets at what we're talking about today, which is this sort of,
Yeah.
like the first law of cheating in the animal world.
The first law of cheating.
Which is basically the idea that, animals will bend the truth.
Yeah.
Or even outright lie to gain an advantage in all sorts of situations.
Yeah, and it's not just crows doing it.
Right.
It's all over the place.
So, that raises the question, like, why cheat in the first place?
Yeah.
Why not just cooperate all the time?
Well, the interesting thing is that cheating is actually really closely linked to cooperation.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Animals often achieve more when they work together.
Right.
Right? So cooperation can be very beneficial. But for cooperation to work, you need to have communication.
Yeah.
Right? You need to be able to send and receive signals.
Right.
But once you have that system in place, right, once you have that communication system, you also create the possibility for those signals to be, less than honest.
So it's like a vulnerability built into the system.
In a way, yeah.
Wow, that's kind of wild.
It is.
So, from the perspective of the animal that's sending the signal, whether it's like a warning cry or a mating dance or whatever, being dishonest isn't really like a moral decision.
No.
Right? It's more like
it's just a strategy
for survival and reproduction.
Yeah.
It's about passing on your genes.
Right.
And biologists like Richard Dawkins and John Krebs, they even talk about the animal center as being like a Machiavellian manipulator.
It's a Machiavellian manipulator.
Just trying to maximize its chances of success.
Exactly.
So that really raises a question for the animal that's receiving the signal. Right. If any signal could potentially be a lie.
Yeah.
How do you decide whether to trust it?
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's like a business leader evaluating a potential partnership that sounds amazing, but also carries a risk of being a total scam.
Right. Do you take the risk or do you play it safe?
And for animals, the stakes are even higher.
Much higher, yeah.
It's not just about money. It's about their Darwinian fitness, which is basically their ability to produce offspring that will survive and reproduce themselves.
Exactly. And they're making these decisions all the time based on instincts.
Right. It's like these quick calculations of risk and reward.
Yeah. Are the benefits of responding worth the potential costs?
So I think it's really interesting to look at what happens when this trust in communication breaks down.
Yeah.
Right? Like when the system gets kind of overloaded with deception.
Right.
And there's a really good example of this with Pacific field crickets in Hawaii.
Yeah, the crickets.
So there were two main types of male crickets in this population. You had the chirpers, which are the ones that, chirp to attract females.
Yeah, the class.
And then you had these silent sneaker males.
Okay.
That tried to mate with females that were drawn in by the chirpers.
Right. So they were basically taking advantage of the chirpers.
Exactly. And because the females generally preferred the chirpers, the sneakers were less common.
Okay.
But then a parasitic fly showed up.
Uh-oh.
And this fly had a really nasty way of finding the chirping males.
How's that?
It used their songs to locate them.
Oh, wow.
And lay its eggs on them.
So the chirping was basically a death sentence.
Yeah, a deadly advertisement.
Wow.
And the evolutionary pressure was intense.
Right.
On one of the islands, the chirping males were basically wiped out.
Really?
Yeah, like really quickly. It was dramatic.
That's incredible.
What was left?
Well, mostly the silent sneakers.
The sneakers took over.
Yeah, the whole system of acoustic communication for finding mates just collapsed because the honest signal had become such a liability. The honest signal was a death trap.
So that really shows how fragile this whole system of communication can be.
Absolutely.
Right? Like for it to work at all, there needs to be this basic level of trust.
Yeah.
The senders need to be reasonably truthful.
Right.
And the receivers need to generally benefit from paying attention.
Yeah.
So cheating, it's less like the rule and more like this sort of like a glitch in the system of cooperative communication.
A bug in the system.
Yeah, exactly. So how does lying actually work in these communication systems?
Well, it's all about manipulating the meaning of the signals, right?
Okay.
The cheater sends a false message, hoping that the receiver will interpret it as genuine,
right,
and act in a way that benefits the cheater.
So it's like a con job.
Basically, yeah.
Like think about the story of the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
It worked at first because people believed his fake warnings.
Right.
And then our crow at the beginning, same idea. It took advantage of the other crow's automatic response to an alarm call, even though there was no real danger.
Right.
So we've talked about why animals cheat and the basic how.
Yeah.
Now let's get into like the actual tricks they use.
Right. The specifics.
Yeah, their arsenal of deception within their own species.
The arsenal.
Because it's really quite diverse.
Oh, it is. Yeah. And incredibly creative.
Yeah. So the ultimate goal, as we've said, is to improve their Darwinian fitness.
Right. To pass on their genes.
Yeah. And the methods they use are just amazing.
They are. Yeah. It's fascinating.
So let's start with something basic like food.
Okay. Food deception.
Yeah. So it's not just crows using those fake alarm calls to get a meal.
Right.
Lots of birds do this, like tits and flycatchers. They'll sound a predator alarm even when there's no predator around.
Yeah, just to scare off the competition.
Exactly. It's like an information war for resources.
It is an information war. Yeah.
And like any arms race, the animals being targeted can evolve countermeasures. But the cheaters are always coming up with new strategies.
Yeah, it's a constant back and forth.
Yeah. And, some of the most impressive food deceivers are those really smart birds.
Oh, yeah.
Like crows, ravens, and jays.
Yeah, those guys are clever.
They're surprisingly aware of what their fellow birds are doing. And they'll deliberately try to mislead their rivals about where they've hidden food.
Yeah, like they'll cache food in one spot.
Right.
And then pretend to cache it in another.
To throw them off the scent.
Exactly.
And I always find it fascinating how the subordinate ravens will trick the dominant ones.
Yeah.
Like they know they can't win a fight.
Right.
So they use these elaborate fake-outs to send the bigger birds in the wrong direction.
It's brilliant.
And it's not just a one-time trick.
Right.
Ravens that get fooled, they learn.
Yeah, they catch on.
And they start trying to figure out the real hiding spots.
Yeah, so it becomes this ongoing game.
Yeah, a constant battle of wits.
Absolutely.
And it's not just those really intelligent birds.
Right.
Even squirrels. Yeah.
They're masters of deception when they bury their nuts.
They are. Yeah, it's amazing.
Like they'll keep their distance from other squirrels while they're digging. Sometimes they'll even turn their backs.
Yeah, like they're trying to hide what they're doing.
Exactly. And the fake caches they create.
Oh, yeah, the fake caches.
I've definitely fallen for that myself.
Yeah.
Digging up an empty hole, convinced there was a nut there.
Oh, me too, all the time.
It's like they're anticipating being watched.
They probably are.
And this whole behavior of hiding food.
Yeah.
It's not just for squirrels.
No.
Primates do it too.
Yeah, like macaques.
Yeah, macaques, squirrel monkeys, even chimpanzees.
Right.
Especially the lower-ranking individuals.
Yeah, they got to be sneaky.
Yeah, because they know their food might get stolen by someone higher up in the social hierarchy.
Right.
So they'll avoid going near their hidden stash if a dominant individual is around.
Yeah, like they don't even want to risk it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's move on from food to another really important area, sex and reproduction. Yeah, the battle for the next generation.
Exactly, and deception plays a huge role here, too.
It does. Oh, yeah.
And those false alarms we talked about?
Yeah.
They pop up here as well.
They do.
Like barn swallows, for example.
Okay.
They live in colonies.
Right.
Which offers some safety from predators.
Yeah.
But it also creates opportunities for sneaky mating.
Right.
So a male might give a false predator alarm just to interrupt his mate if she's trying to mate with another male.
Oh, wow. So he's just breaking it up.
Yeah, it's all about ensuring his own paternity.
Yeah, making sure his genes are the ones that get passed on.
Exactly. And Formosan squirrels have a similar tactic.
Okay.
After a male has mated with a female, he might give a fake alarm call to keep other males away.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, during the period when the female could still potentially be inseminated by someone else.
So he's trying to buy some time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about maximizing his chances of reproductive success.
Yeah. And speaking of maximizing chances, the Atlantic Molly takes romantic deception to a whole new level.
Really?
Yeah, the experienced males, they'll actually court females they're not really interested in.
What?
Yeah, but only if a younger, less experienced male is watching.
So they're like intentionally misleading the young guys.
Yeah, they're giving them false information about what the females prefer.
That's amazing.
It is. It's really quite devious.
Wow, that's a whole other level.
Yeah, and primates, as we mentioned earlier, they really excel when it comes to social intelligence and manipulating information.
Yeah, they're masters of the social game.
They are.
And like gorillas and chimpanzees covering their faces to hide their emotions.
Right.
Or chimps hiding objects before they throw them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That requires understanding what others can and can't see.
Absolutely.
And then you have that classic example of a subordinate chimpanzee hiding its erection from a dominant male.
Yeah, to avoid conflict.
Exactly. It really shows how aware they are of the social dynamics and potential threats.
Yeah, it suggests they have what we call a theory of mind.
Theory of mind.
Yeah, the ability to understand that others have their own thoughts and beliefs and intentions.
Wow. So it's like they're thinking about what the other individual is thinking.
Yeah, essentially.
That's incredible.
It is. And on the flip side, females aren't just passive in all of this.
Right.
When they're faced with unwanted sexual advances, they have their own deceptive strategies.
So it's not just a one-way street.
No, definitely not.
And, like appealing to dominant males for protection is one thing.
Yeah.
But female mice actually produce chemicals in their urine.
Really?
Yeah, that smell like ferret to repel unwanted male attention.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a chemical defense mechanism.
A chemical weapon.
Exactly. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about deception in contests and social status.
Yeah, the battle for dominance.
Right, where animals try to appear tougher or more capable than they actually are.
Yeah, all about appearances.
Exactly. And I actually have a personal story about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was really fascinated with cricket fighting.
Cricket fighting.
Yeah, and I quickly learned that a cricket's loud chirping didn't necessarily mean it was a strong fighter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was often just a bluff.
So it was all show.
Yeah, the real indicator of fighting ability was the size of the gap between their mandibles.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a silent physical trait that you could measure.
Interesting.
And that taught me a valuable lesson about not always believing what you hear.
Good lesson.
Yeah. So bluffing, it's a really widespread tactic in the animal world.
Oh, yeah. It's everywhere.
And it's not just crickets.
Yeah,
like crustaceans, for instance.
Okay.
Like crabs and mantis shrimps, they'll wave their claws around even when they're vulnerable after shedding their shells.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're hoping their opponent won't risk testing their apparent strength.
It's a risky strategy.
Yeah, it can backfire.
Definitely.
Like a fiddler crab with a regenerated weaker claw that tries to bluff might be in for a surprise.
Yeah, a rude awakening.
And frogs and toads take a different approach.
Okay.
They can alter their voice pitch to sound much bigger than they actually are.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a lower pitch usually indicates a larger size.
Right.
But it can be faked.
So it's like vocal manipulation.
Exactly, and it makes you think about human parallels, like someone faking a deeper voice to sound more authoritative.
Yeah, it's a classic power move.
Definitely. And even dogs are canine companions.
Uh-huh.
They engage in deceptive signaling of dominance.
Yeah, like how?
Well, barking is an obvious one.
Yeah, of course.
But the way smallie male dogs will lift their legs incredibly high when they urinate.
Oh, yeah.
That's a silent way of trying to project an image of greater size.
And territorial control.
Exactly. And speaking of scent marking, pandas doing handstands to place their scent higher up on trees.
Really?
Yeah, it's all about exaggerating their size.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, they're basically creating the illusion of being bigger and more intimidating.
It's all about perception.
Exactly. And then you have those animals that are really good at exaggerating injuries to gain social support.
Oh, yeah, the drama queens?
Yeah, monkeys and apes are well known for this,
Oh.
sometimes letting out these dramatic screams over minor scrapes.
Yeah, especially if there's an audience.
Exactly. And even young baboons.
Yeah?
They learn to play the sympathy card with their mothers.
Oh, yeah, they know how to work it.
So, Let's move on to a more subtle form of deception.
Okay.
Free riding.
Ah, free riding.
Yeah, the art of putting in less effort than your fair share when working in a group.
Yeah, the classic slacker move.
Exactly. And it happens in the animal world, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, take young birds that help their parents raise their siblings.
Okay.
So they share genes with their siblings.
Right.
Which is why they're motivated to help in the first place.
Right, kin selection.
Yeah, but they only share about 50% of their genes, which can lead to some interesting dynamics.
Yeah, not always full commitment.
Exactly. And there's a great example of this with carrion crows.
Okay.
There are these birds where the young often stay and help their parents raise the next brood.
Right.
And the sluggish helpers, they tend to be less active when the dominant breeding pair is present.
Like they're just taking it easy?
Yeah, but their effort increases dramatically if the dominant birds are removed.
Oh, wow. So they're capable of helping.
Yeah.
They just choose not to when they can get away with it.
Exactly. They're strategic about their laziness.
Classic free riding.
And then you have giant Babex chicks. They actually pay their helpers with fecal sacs.
Fecal sacs?
Yeah, it's like a nutritious reward.
Oh, interesting.
But some cheating helpers, they'll actually put garbage in the chicks' mouths.
What?
Yeah, or even steal the feces themselves.
So they're getting the reward without actually doing the work.
Exactly. They're taking advantage of the system.
That's pretty low.
It is, and free riding becomes particularly relevant when groups face external threats.
Right.
Like lions defending their territory.
Yep.
Some individuals are always at the forefront of any confrontation.
Yeah, the brave ones.
Right. But others are more like draft dodgers.
They hang back.
Yeah, they only join in when absolutely necessary.
Right.
And then you have the true slackers.
The ones who contribute nothing.
Exactly. They just don't pull their weight.
Classic.
And reproduction isn't immune to free riding either.
No, of course not.
Especially in social insects like ants and bees.
Yeah, those highly organized societies.
Right. So the queen's pheromones usually prevent the workers from reproducing.
Right.
But if the queen dies, you often see the emergence of false queens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, among the workers, and even with a living queen, some workers will secretly lay unfertilized eggs.
Really?
Yeah, which will develop into males.
So it's like a hidden reproductive world within the colony.
Exactly, and to maintain order and efficiency.
Yeah.
There's this fascinating phenomenon called policing. Yeah. In social insects, like worker bees, for example, will actually attack or destroy eggs laid by their fellow workers.
Oh, wow. So it's like quality control.
Yeah. It's a way of enforcing the reproductive hierarchy.
Right.
And making sure that the queen remains the primary reproductive female.
Interesting.
And this kind of policing behavior isn't just in insects.
Right.
We see similar forms of punishment for laziness or not contributing in other species.
Like who?
Like cichlid fishes,
Okay.
fairy wrens, naked mole rats, even macaques.
Wow. So it's pretty widespread.
It is. So we've covered cheating for food.
Yeah.
Status avoiding work.
Right.
Now for the really high stakes arena, cheating for mates.
The mating game.
Exactly. And with the ultimate goal of passing on genes at stake,
right,
males in particular have evolved an amazing array of deceptive strategies.
They have. Yeah, it's incredible.
So that African cichlid we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the one with the egg spots.
Yeah, that's just pure manipulation.
It is.
The female thinks she's about to pick up stray eggs, which is part of their mouth-brooding behavior, but it's actually the male seizing the opportunity to release his sperm.
Oh, wow. So he's tricking her into helping him reproduce.
Exactly. And then you have salmon, which really take alternative reproductive tactics to an extreme.
How so?
So you have the typical anadromous males
that
migrate to the ocean and grow to a large size.
Right.
But then you have these jacks. Yeah, males that return to freshwater early and are much smaller.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they basically get a head start on reproduction.
Right.
And can sometimes sneak mating opportunities.
Sneaky.
And then there are the precocious par.
Precocious par.
Yeah, tiny males that stay in the streams, mature early, and try to fertilize eggs while the larger males are busy fighting.
Wow, so they're like the little guys trying to get in on the action.
Exactly, and they're surprisingly successful.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. And the plainfin midshipman fish.
Okay.
It has these singing type eye males that build nests and attract females. But then it also has these sneaky, silent type 2 males that don't sing or build nests.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they have much larger tests.
Okay.
And they either mimic females to get close to nests, or they just try to sneak fertilizations.
Sneaky.
And the fact that an enzyme called aromatase.
Aromatase?
Yeah, plays a role in determining which type of male develops.
Really?
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing.
It is. It's like a biological switch.
Yeah, and then you have side-blotched lizards.
Okay.
With their 3 distinct male morphs.
3 morphs?
Yeah, the aggressive orange males with large territories and lots of females.
Okay.
The blue males with smaller territories and fewer females, but they have lower aggression and higher immunity.
Interesting.
And then the yellow she-males.
Females.
Yeah, that mimic females to sneak into orange male territories and mate with their females.
Wow, so it's like a rock, paper, scissors game.
Exactly. Each morph has its own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, it's a fascinating system.
And then there are the flathead lizards with their male she-males.
Yeah.
But their body odor can actually give them away.
Really?
Yeah, leading to the he-males avoiding them.
Oh, so their disguise is imperfect.
Yeah, it shows that even the most convincing disguises can have their flaws.
Right.
And then you have the red-sided garter snakes.
Okay.
Which have this incredible mass hibernation.
Right.
And then in the spring, when they emerge, there's this frantic mating that happens.
Right.
And the males use pheromones to identify females.
Okay.
But then you have the garter snake she-males.
Females again?
Yeah, that actually produce pheromones that make them smell like females.
Really?
Yeah, even though they're male.
Wow.
And this allows them to infiltrate those massive mating balls of one female and many males.
Oh, wow. So they're reducing the competition they face.
Exactly. It's a really clever strategy.
It is. And these alternative reproductive tactics, they're actually really widespread.
They are. Yeah, it's amazing.
And the sneaking males, they often share a suite of characteristics.
Like what?
Well, they tend to be smaller.
Okay.
Less conspicuously attractive. They mature earlier.
Right.
They invest more in their reproductive organs.
Okay.
And they often employ some form of mimicry.
Mimicry.
Yeah, like looking, smelling, or even acting like females.
So they're basically making the best of a situation, but they can't compete directly with the bigger, more dominant males.
Right. They have to find a different way.
Yeah. So we've seen all these incredible ways that animals cheat.
Yeah.
But it can't just be a free-for-all, right?
Yeah.
There must be some kind of balance.
There is.
So that brings us to the costs and benefits of cheating.
Right. The evolutionary trade-offs.
Exactly. So cheating, like any other evolutionary strategy,
yeah,
it has potential rewards, but it also carries risks. And for cheating behavior to persist over evolutionary time, the benefits have to outweigh the costs.
Exactly.
But the more common a particular cheating strategy becomes, the lower the net benefit tends to be.
Yeah. It's like supply and demand.
Exactly. If everyone's doing it, it's not as advantageous.
Right.
So it's like that analogy we used earlier about the widget company.
Yeah.
If the risk of being scammed becomes too high, the whole business venture becomes less appealing.
Exactly.
So the prevalence of cheating strategies, it often depends on this delicate balance of benefit versus cost.
Right, for both the cheaters and the cheated.
Exactly, and evolution is constantly performing this cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, favoring strategies that lead to greater reproductive success in the long run.
Right, so let's look at false alarm calls again.
Okay.
So the energy cost for a bird to produce a false alarm is pretty low.
Right.
But the potential reward, like access to food or preventing a rival from mating, can be significant.
Yeah, high reward.
And the cost of ignoring a real alarm can be fatal.
Right, so there's a strong incentive to pay attention.
Exactly, and that creates an asymmetry that often favors the cheater.
Right.
But that's why those who are frequently targeted by false alarms, they can evolve countermeasures. Like learning to discriminate against unreliable signalers.
Like who?
Like young animals that cry wolf too often.
Right. They haven't learned to be subtle yet.
Exactly. And a reputation for dishonesty can have serious social consequences.
Yeah, it's like they get a bad reputation.
Exactly. And this is an example of what we call frequency-dependent selection.
Frequency-dependent selection.
Yeah, meaning the success of a cheating strategy often depends on how common it is.
Right. So if it becomes too common, it's not as effective.
Exactly. So, what about bluffing?
Bluffing?
Yeah, it often has a low cost.
Right.
Maybe just a posture or a vocalization, but the potential gain, like avoiding a costly fight, can be very high.
Yeah, so it's worth the risk.
And other animals are often reluctant to test a bluff.
Yeah.
Because the potential cost of being wrong could be serious injury.
Right.
So there's this information asymmetry.
Information asymmetry.
Yeah, where the bluffer knows their true strength, but the opponent doesn't.
Well, yeah.
And that helps keep bluffing a viable tactic.
Makes sense.
And free riding.
Yeah.
It often has a favorable benefit to cost ratio for the individual,
right,
even though it can be detrimental to the group.
Yeah, the classic tragedy of the commons.
Exactly. And as the size of the group increases, it often becomes easier to get away with free riding.
Right. You can hide in the crowd.
Exactly. But when we look at cheating for sex through those alternative reproductive tactics, the costs can be significantly higher. Like sneaking males often have to sacrifice investment in body size and direct fighting ability. And they often live in the shadows.
Right. They can't be as conspicuous.
And they may undergo physiological, morphological, and behavioral changes that are not easily reversible.
Right. So it's a big commitment.
Yeah. And because they directly reduce the reproductive success of other males.
Yeah, and sometimes even females.
Right. There's often strong selection against these cheaters.
Right.
Which helps to keep their numbers